welcome everybody back to Virtue's Brand of Wrestling here on the BigVitoBrand.com. And I am Virtue, being joined by my esteemed co-host, the remarkable Robbie Vice. What's up?
First try, man. You got the name right the first try. I'm proud of you. Man, it's going good, but man, I got a feeling that we're going to be talking about some WWE today because I'm trying to stay positive, my friend, but I thought last night's show was not the best. So let's just launch right into it, man. What do you want to talk about first?
So obviously Double or Nothing AEW happened this past Saturday night. Now, we're not going to talk about that here on the BigVitoBrand.com. I want to talk about WWE's reaction towards it. Now, if you want to catch Rob, in my opinion, on Double or Nothing, go to WrestlingWithWrestling.com. We're going to have something up there. We're all one big happy family. So, Robbie Vice, what is WWE doing? Now, everybody knows, especially on Twitter, I have been, for the most part, pro WWE, especially when it comes to talent. I've always put over Vince McMahon. He became a millionaire, a billionaire because of professional wrestling, sports entertainment, which, now everybody wants wrestling. We're wrestling fans, not sports entertainment fans. Of course, WWE has some shady practices. They do business with Saudi Arabia. Okay, enough said on that. The whole thing going on with after the death of Ashley Massaro, Big Vito and I have talked about that. Let's talk about what's wrong with WWE. Everybody knows I like Brock. I like Roman. I like the guys they push because the fans hate it. And I'm not changing that. But I will admit, Rob, things are wrong creatively. Things are wrong with booking. Remember I said Triple H and Vince might be, it might be a work having them feud. Let's pretend that they really aren't seeing eye to eye, and the NXT vision is one, and the old school WWE vision is the other. What do you think? What do you want to talk about first in terms of what's wrong with WWE? Because Raw last night was bad, and I'll even admit that.
So first of all, let this be for the record of everyone who says that you're nothing but a yes man WWE fanboy that constantly says the product is fine no matter what. People just need to be objective. So I just want to get that out of the way first. What's wrong is I don't even think they know everything that's wrong right now. I mean, the biggest example of it is just, to me, 50-50 booking. How do you build a star when you have a company where everyone has to just be on even ground? I am terrified for Bray Wyatt to come back because he's going to jump into it. He's going to win his first match, and then he's going to lose, and then he's going to win, and then he's going to lose. To me, 50-50 booking and their inability to create big stars is the biggest detriment to the entire company right now.
And I agree. And I think they have too much talent. Now, the brand split sucks. You can't be your own competition. Now, I've heard conspiracies out there by Vince Russo. Could AEW and WWE be secretly in cahoots, although they're still competitors, feeding off each other to boost their both of their numbers? Now, that's just not the Vince McMahon style. So I really don't want to talk about that. I think they have so much content with Raw, SmackDown, NXT, 205 Live, the system of bringing in indie stars, having them develop through NXT. Sure, maybe they're developing down there, but then having that vision, which is what indie fans want. The hardcore fans want NXT. I'm sorry, AEW fans. It's been around called NXT for the last 5 years. They do 15,000-seat arenas, for the takeovers. People love the wrestling. It's already there. They have that type of product, but it's not translating to the main product. And I have to think it's just Vince McMahon's ego. He does not, unless he makes a star himself or pushes a star that he thinks is going to catch on like Roman. I just think that Vince will continue to do it his way. And even if the fan base of wrestling comes to the niche and they want what Triple H is, NXT, AEW, Vince is not giving that to them. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and I think the best analogy that I can put forth is, and it might be dating me a little bit, but it's like you had Coca-Cola for a really long time, and then Pepsi came along, and then everyone liked
that
both.
Example. I love that example, dude.
WWE right now isn't Coke. They are New Coke. Do you remember when they brought New Coke out? and it was awful, and everyone wanted them to go back to the old Coke, and eventually they did, but they lost a lot of money, and that's exactly what's happening right now, is they're trying to change the game, and last night's episode felt like it was like scorched earth trolling of the fans. And
it felt like they want it to be, like you said, they don't really know what they're doing maybe. Scripts are getting done last second. Was that whole Brock Lesnar thing, hitting Heyman with the paper, was that a parody of Vince McMahon hitting the writers with the paper when he doesn't like what they write? I mean, there's a lot to look into there.
They did the same segment twice.
Yes. And Brock's coming out with the boombox. That's funny for gifs and memes once.
Right.
Now it's like, is Brock being a parody of himself? Because he's like, this briefcase is full of millions of dollars and I'm being a goof because I don't care because this stuff sucks, but I'm getting paid. Right. Like, I literally think that right now.
Yeah, and the way that they trolled it, they brought him out that he was going to make a decision, and he doesn't. He comes out again, and he's going to make a decision, and Seth Rollins comes out to confront him. He confronts and challenges the most dangerous man in professional wrestling. And then he's like, oh, I have this for a year. They make it.
He didn't even know. That was a typical meathead.
Right. But the best part of that is that was almost written as another troll to the fans. Like, guess what, guys? This could go on for a whole year. I don't think they'll have the patience for that. I think this will all come together at SummerSlam. But it's just every single segment to these. And then they try to say that those people in the crowd weren't plants when one obviously forgot his line. Yep. And I don't know, man. It just, the entire show just felt like a big FU from Vince McMahon to all the people who supported the event that happened this weekend.
And now let's think about this logically here. Bad WWE creative. You have the WWE champion, Kofi Kingston, in the ring. You have the Universal champion, Seth Rollins, in the ring. Brock Lesnar is supposed to be the baddest ass on the planet since Mike Tyson, okay? Former UFC champion with a winning record, might I add. Mm-hmm. And yet he doesn't, like, want to destroy them and cash in and win a title right then and there. Like, you're Brock Lesnar, you just do it and take it. What are you waiting for? They don't play to the characters. Everybody's just now, Brock aside, like, look at all the wrestlers. Like you said earlier, everybody looks the same. 50-50 booking. Their gimmicks are all wrestlers. And to me, it's frustrating because it's almost like because WWE main roster is so bad, now the fans, especially the AEW fans, do you think they're conflicted? Do you think some fans start turning on NXT, especially the diehard AEW fans? Even if NXT's still presented like it's always been, the wrestling matches, which everybody's clamored has been better than the main roster for a few years now. Do you think the bad main roster product, is going to affect NXT now that AEW is a thing? I'm wondering that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because guess what? Fanboys ruin everything. You and I grew up in the console wars, the heart of the console wars. There are people I know that are diehard video game fans that didn't play a lot of these console exclusives on Sega or Super Nintendo because they just had those blinders on and they had to hate the competition. And that's what I see happening right now. There is this giant us versus them thing happening right now that makes no sense because, and I tweeted this out, you can like both. You can like AEW. You can like TNA. You can like WWE. But it just feels like there is a portion of the fan base that thinks, since I like WWE, I have to be the defender of WWE staunchly. And any criticism is terrible. And then you got the people on the other side that are like, I like New Japan, AEW, and some of these other smaller promotions, so therefore I can never acknowledge WWE doing something good. And all that does is that deprives the fans of good matches and things that they will never experience because they're too thick-headed to understand the us versus them, everyone loses.
And I think the WWE looks so bad right now because there's too much content. Like, people clamor over New Japan, the Smarks. Right? They clamor over Ring of Honor. Now it's AEW. And what do those do? Typically present the professional wrestling like a sport. AEW is trying to be a little more than Ring of Honor in Japan. They're trying to be a little bit of sports entertainment with the wrestling and change. And, you know, hey, we're going to give you what you want. We're going to push the right guys. We're not going to push guys you don't like. But I think WWE just has too much content. They have what the fans want in NXT, right? But the same thing as 205 Live, but not many people like that. Why? What's different with 205 Live, really, than NXT? But
I've
NXT
never watched
is
it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's cruiserweights doing that same style of wrestling, false
Mhm.
finishes, this and that, flipping, flying. But 205 is just like a network show, no major events. Remember, they used to be on Raw, okay? Now I think they just do a network show on Wednesday nights or whenever it is.
Mhm.
NXT still kind of feels bigger because it's deemed developmental, and everybody wants to know who the next call-up's going to be. They can't even do that right, Rob. Call-ups. Look
Right.
at what we talked about this before. So like EC3, right? When they did that party, now I'm not saying he needs to be a big star, but a mid-carder, when they did that party scene on Raw and he was sitting there doing like the solo cup drink, dude, you could tell like he was shooting. He was like, why in the, but I'm collecting a check, but why in the hell am I here?
There
That would
should
have been
never
funny.
be
That would have been funny if his cup had like AEW backwards on there.
on the bottom of the cup when he
We're
was
going to
drinking.
talk about something regarding that in a little
Sure.
bit here, but
You should never be able to see a group of wrestlers and know immediately that all of them are losers. Okay? Because, and I know that sounds terrible, but like when you see that particular group who is there, you see Titus O'Neil, you see, the Good Brothers there, you see EC3 and all these other people, and you're like, the only good people there were the Usos, right? Like they were the only ones who have done anything meaningful recently.
And it's almost like, what the hell did they do to be put in that segment? It's like, what?
That's probably the payback for the DUI thing. I'm sure that they were paying penance for something to Vince. But yeah, like when I look at that, and then it's like with the 24/7 title, that could be really fun. But at the very least, when R-Truth runs through the ring, why the hell would Seth Rollins curb stomp this guy and just try to win a title? Because it was right in front of him, and he just decided it was just not worth it to him. And you could have made this title fun and exciting, but every time you have segments where big guys are nearby and they don't give a shit, why should I care about this belt if stars don't care about this belt? And it's already ruined.
Exactly. I mean, so bad concepts, way too much TV, the brand split that doesn't make sense. They've really already ruined with the wild card. So I'm really trying to pinpoint what really makes WWE look so bad. And remember that tweet? I'm looking for that tweet I put up last night. You know exactly which one I'm talking about because I think you replied to me on it. It was about WWE. While I'm looking it up, keep going with something about what makes WWE so bad right now. I need to find this.
Scripted promos have to be up on that list as well. You can't force someone to be The Rock. You can't force someone to be Roddy Piper. That is an anomaly that doesn't happen in wrestling.
They weren't scripted, right?
No, they weren't. They got what? They got bullet points, right? Isn't that what they did? They're like, hey, just try to hit these 3 topics. And, unless you were Psycho Sid and completely ruined it, for the most part, people stayed on track with those, and they did well. But now you guys come out now, and they sound like the 2K My Wrestler with these really lame pre-recorded lines. And I feel like I should be holding my Xbox controller hitting, okay, I'm going to give the heel answer B. I'm going to give the face answer A. And that's it. There's no substance to it, and I don't believe it. And if I can't believe the character, why would I care about them?
Dude, my buddy has that 2K18, whatever. It might have been last year's because I think he's playing the one that was abysmal on the Nintendo Switch because it was too much.
That was the most recent one, I think.
It was too much for the Nintendo Switch to handle. He's creating Michael Myers, Jason, Freddy Krueger, Leatherface because he's like, there's no way that Vince McMahon would not push these guys because he'd be freaking scared of them. Here's that tweet, Rob.
Okay.
And here's what baffles me. 1 like, 1 retweet, and it was you. And everybody calls me. See, people don't want to recognize me as objective. They want to think that I have a narrative that I'm pro WWE for a reason. I want a job with them. Dude, I am objective, not subjective. And I'm going to tell you right here, this proves it. WWE does more shows in a calendar year all across the globe than any other wrestling promotion ever will. It's their own fault they coast most of the time just to get to the next town or country. Is that me being a pro WWE shill?
That is the tweet of the year, my friend. And you should pin that to your Twitter because that proves to a lot of people that you are in fact objective. Right now. Yeah, you should.
And no one, and you notice nobody wanted to acknowledge that tweet. And it might have got lost and all. I did a lot of tweeting during Raw last night, so maybe it got lost. But they want to think of me as the pro WWE guy. Look, I used to watch ECW WCW and WWF back in the day.
Same,
I've
yeah.
watched TNA. I'm open to AEW because I like Chris Jericho. So, but the fact I've supported WWE is because I respect how Vince McMahon bought the company from his dad and turned it from a wrestling promotion into a $1 billion conglomerate where he can take money off the top and throw it away trying to do professional football. I kind of have respect for entrepreneurs like that.
For sure.
And he's all across the globe, but the problem is he got it too big to handle, too big for itself, and that exposes it. And that's
100%.
why I think it's bad. He's got too many writers. Look, everybody knows Vince McMahon still has the end say. Well, back when Vince Russo and Ed Ferrara wrote it, even back with Jim Cornette, Paul Heyman, when it was more intimate groups around Vince, he did more of what they said and he just tweaked it. There's documentation, there's proof of that. Now you got a team of writers and we heard he's canceling scripts and rewriting as the show starts, as it goes on. There's a disconnect there. I'd like to think it's a work for this great angle. But, Rob, it's bad because Vince McMahon can't let it go like Al Davis couldn't let the Raiders go. That's my comparison.
And that's fair. And I think Vince McMahon should stay on in charge of the business side of everything. I think it's time for him to let go of the writing and the producing. Yep. You know, we've seen other promotions and in AEW, you can see the production value of WWE is so much better. And even the commentary on their worst night, I think still is better than most of the other promotions around the world. But what I will say is a lot of this humor, a lot of the stuff that happens like that shit with the Revival, with like the jockstrap, they're scooting their butt across the ring like a dog.
What they did with Ambrose. I mean, yeah, he had his little shield stuff at the end, like the good farewell, but they really made him a joke when he came back and they started
you know, and everything smelled bad, and the Natalia farting gimmick. All of this is Vince McMahon's juvenile 1990 humor that people today just, it doesn't resonate with everyone. And I hate to say this, it resonates with the lowest common denominator of wrestling fans, and they don't even make up the majority of the casual fans anymore, which is why ratings are down.
Well, and think about this. Casual fans used to turn in, and dude, call me sexist or whatever, but I mean, they would see, first of all, people like The Rock and Austin, but not necessarily wrestling or fighting, throwing belts over bridges, pouring beer, the milk truck with Kurt Angle, the Zamboni, divas with pillow fight, you know, and I know we're past that in 2019, but I mean, these were hot women that were willing to go out there and show their bodies off. Most of them went to Playboy.
Right.
And that's what casuals draw casuals. Now, PG era, it's just so far gone. But here's the big thing I want to talk about. As bad as WWE is, watching Raw, you know, Brock with the boombox, considering how serious he's been the last few years, that's cool. You get little things here and there. The Bray Wyatt Firefly Funhouse. You know, granted, we're kind of worried where that's going to go. Sami Zayn in this electric chair bit, which was stupid because you can't do the fan plan, whatever that is. But he mentioned AEW. Tell me your take on this. Now, we know Raw usually takes 45 to 60 seconds. I'm not sure exactly before it makes it to the live TV. So if something that is said by a wrestler, you know, a wrestler or this or that happens that they don't want to air, they can usually cut it off, right?
Yes.
This has to be scripted. And why do you think? Or do you think Sammy said it? Because I saw they were making it like Graves was getting uncomfortable. What is your take on that mention? Shoot or script, and why do you think they did?
100% script. Nothing gets on TV without Vince McMahon. That guy is sitting in Gorilla with his hand or his finger over the kill switch to every single segment that airs on TV. The reason that they're doing this, and then they pulled it from YouTube, why? To create buzz, to create controversy, to get people talking, because maybe if they talk about that, they won't talk about how bad the product's been, and it'll generate some interest, and maybe some casual fans will be like, hey, this guy spoke out. I want to tune in next week. Do I think it'll really have a lasting effect? No. I think it's probably lived its 15 minutes already. I think people have moved on, but you cannot tell me that Vince McMahon would allow that to go on TV and Sami Zayn would still be employed or on the website and not buried in obscurity where he could just live out the rest of his contract making no money from merch.
And they used to say back in the day, like if you were second place, you always mentioned your competitor. You were chasing them. You created the war. But if you were in first, you ignored them. Well, let's go back to when WCW was in first. Bischoff kind of didn't ignore them. He kind of mentioned them a lot and gave spoilers and this and that.
Which backfired.
They ended up losing. Granted, it was the AOL Time Warner merger. Yeah. He misspent money, too many egos in the locker room with creative control. There's many reasons. Absolutely. No, it had nothing to do with Vince Russo. He tried his damnedest to do his Crash TV there. It was too late. Couple bad booking decisions by him, I'll agree. But come on, Aaron Rift, stop saying WCW 2000. I'm sick of it. But look what happened. WWE was number 2, and it won in the end because it was different. Attitude Era was different. Mm-hmm. Right now, AEW is that different. And I'm starting to think WWE better start making plans to be competitive. And that's the thing. They're all
they're not losing money, dude. Vince doesn't give a shit. If they're not
they did lose a little bit Q1 2019, but I don't think that counted Mania yet. I think that was so. I'm interested to see Q2 and see how Mania trade. And I think Q2 is also going to have the Saudi Arabia show on it too. So I bet you Q2 they make up for Q1.
That company is so big that the only thing you're going to see, it's going to have to be a year-over-year loss of revenue before they make any changes. And the chances of that happening are slim to none because guess what? I'm not happy with the product. You think it's definitely gone downhill? I pay $10 a month for it, and I don't think twice about it. So how many others do the same thing? They are going to get their revenue. People are going to buy the shirts. A legend's going to come back for a night with a new T-shirt, and we're all going to buy it because that's what we do. So
we're all critics, and the critics have to watch it so we have content for Twitter, YouTube.
100%.
Yep. So WWE knows they got this much no matter what, right? They got this much no matter what.
And one, I know I've brought this up several times. I'm speaking to everyone out there who, after every single Raw, every single SmackDown, every single time something happens you don't like, it's like the same 500 people being like, they're not getting my money next month. I'm canceling the network. And you post about it the following Monday. Shut up. You are full of yourself. Stop.
Dude, one of my arch nemesis on Twitter, I'm not going to mention his name, canceled it, stopped his column in his blog back in like October. Yeah. Yet I just recently saw he canceled it again. Well, you know what that means? Whether it was just the free trial or not, he signed back up for it to watch WrestleMania.
Sure.
That's all I'm going to say, dude. That's all I'm going to say. If you really didn't like it, you would have never even did the free trial one more time just to even watch WrestleMania. Everybody comes
to pay money for things I don't like.
Everybody comes back in the end. But yeah, dude, we can contribute to too much content. Maybe 50-50 booking, bad creative decisions, out of touch creative decisions with Vince, not letting the guys that get this newer generation of fans like Triple H, and not saying that the main roster has to be all NXT, but you have to have a better blend. Vince could still have some of his stuff in there, but all of that contributes to why it's so bad, and they're mailing it in because it's town to town, country to country, event to event, quarter to quarter, because they want to make the stockholders happy and make the advertisers happy.
Let me ask you this then. How did WCW do the Cruiserweight division so right and WWE did it horrible? And I'll even go back to the light heavyweight championship in the 90s when Tasha Michinoku, oh my God, I can never say his name.
Taka Michinoku.
Right. When they had Taka Michinoku, they still couldn't elevate that title. Why can't Vince McMahon create something besides the heavyweight title or his old titles with nostalgia? Why can't we have a good Cruiserweight division in WWE?
Because on the main shows, he never wants those guys to get over. WCW allowed it because they literally 20 minutes of Nitro were a couple of Cruiserweight matches every week. And it was different. WWE didn't really do that. And it was different, and it was something new that Nitro offered that Raw didn't. And by the time McMahon tried the light heavyweight, well, they just didn't have the right – you need the right talent. He didn't look at the talent that Cruiserweight division had. A lot of them became world champions. You know what I mean?
They have people to do that.
Eddie.
You know who should be Cruiserweights? Ricochet, Finn Balor. There are guys competing for major titles that have no business in those titles. Why would you call it the World Heavyweight Championship if there's no weight division? Why do we keep doing things that don't make sense? At least streamline it so you have championships that make sense. Guess what? You're the heavyweight champion. You should be a Roman Reigns, a Brock Lesnar. I'll even give a Seth Rollins because we had HBK back in the day. But there are guys like Finn Balor who weigh half as much as I do, and these guys are competing for a heavyweight championship, and it doesn't make sense. And I'm over it. And if I'm going to go on my rant here, I'm also going to say I am absolutely tired of Shane McMahon being on TV as a competitor every week. Why is that happening?
Dude, I'm starting to feel it. I like Shane. I
do too.
But when I went back and watched some of his late 90s stuff and early 2000s. You can tell he doesn't even buy into what he's doing. Probably because it's directed from Vince. I don't feel the passion. I feel like he's even going through the motions. And this whole Roman Reigns feud has me worried because I have a feeling it's going to get Roman into a bad rut again.
Exactly. Who has passion left in the company right now that you see? Becky had it for a little bit. She was carrying that fire.
She doesn't have it. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. Though. It's going.
Brian had it. Brian had it with that heel run into Mania. But
and now he's a tag team?
Gosh, Bray through the vignettes. But I mean, I don't know.
Roman Who cares about their job anymore? Commentary, it's just everyone's going through the motions, man. You're right. It's the traveling carnival. Hey, yes. Man, I know we should put on the best show we can, but we got to get packed up so we could be in Denver tomorrow at 9 a.m. to sign autographs. And I have 15 house shows to do between now and next Monday.
Wow. Well, dude, and here I'm blurry. That's like the WWE product. There we go. I think we can move on so we can record. I mean, the AEW show. Okay. So anybody on the BigVitoBrand.com, go check our other show out that's going to be up on our Twitter and social media on WrestlingWithWrestling.com. It's going to be Wrestling with Virtue, where Robbie Weiss and I are going to break down Double or Nothing and where AEW is headed. So with that said, anything else you want to say about WWE's poor product right now?
I think I ranted for long enough today, my friend. I got everything out.
Okay, so go ahead, do your one plug.
My one plug, guys. Whatever, man. You guys can follow me on Twitter at Xenomecha, Xenomecha. I am remarkable. I am Robbie Weiss. Thank you so much for tuning in. Virtue, take it away with your 50 plugs.
I already plugged WrestlingWithWrestling.com and Wrestling with Virtue. Go ahead, check me out on NoDQ.com. I got Virtue's Rage, the NoDQ review. Rob is finally coming to NoDQ soon. We got to think of a good NoDQ panel topic, but he, Rift, and I, and probably a fourth member, we'll see who it is. Maybe somebody you can razz like Big G. We're going to do a panel very soon. It might take a month, but we're going to get it. And, of course, right here on the BigVitoBrand.com. So that is it. Thank you for listening to this rant about the WWE product. I'm going to make the thumbnail a WWE logo and put something like, what's wrong with the product? I mean, literally, you never hear Virtue really say that. We just spent a whole show talking about that. For remarkable Robbie Weiss, I am Virtue. Follow me on Twitter at NoDQ_Virtue. We will see you next week.
Oh, babe.
Do
I need to hold you? Come here. Oh, my God. You were a jogger. Oh, my God, babe.
My shoulders got dirty.
Oh, my God.
I needed surgery.
Oh, my God. Did you get a sunburn?
No, somebody gave me friggin' suntan lotion, but my back got a little ring burns on it.
Oh, no, babe. Oh, my God. You were a jogger. It's okay. It's going to be okay. Can you hold it together?
It's all right.
Are you all right? You okay?